is Maddie McCarthy. I am from IUC Boston, a PR and integrated marketing agency right here in the city. A lot of what we do is work with hospitality and lifestyle clients in regards to PR, but also a lot of it is also marketing, which we all know. A big part of marketing these days is social media. So that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. I have a lovely panel who is all here gonna give all their tips and tricks for everything from just social media as a whole to also content creation and then influencer programs, what it is and how it can help grow your business. So yeah, I'll get right into some introductions. First we have here Francesca Lombardo. Francesca is the marketing director for Lombardo's hospitality group. Next we have Amelia Gallagher. Amelia is the marketing manager for the Lyons group. Next we have Laura Afonso, and she is the content creator and owner of Buns and Bites, a social media page. And last but certainly not least, we have Paige Harding, and Paige is a photographer and also content creator and business owner of Dining Boston, another social media page there. But yeah, we can get right into it, get to hear from our panelists here. And I'll actually start with you, Francesca. So Francesca, you've seen, Francesca's family has been in the hospitality industry for many years now. So you've been able to really see the growth of social media like Instagram, Facebook, influencer programs over the past few years. And how would you feel that this shift has affected the industry? And your business in particular, but the industry as a whole.
Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, good. So yes, I work for my family's business, Lombardo's Hospitality Group. You may know us as Lombardo's in Randolph. And we've recently expanded to Bardo's Bar Pizza here in South Boston in 2021. So we had a natural progression with our marketing because COVID happened. So for Lombardo's, our weddings and occasions and events, we were really traditional with our marketing. We did expensive print ads in the big wedding magazines. We did radio ads. We did billboards, television ads, you name it. And it was really traditional marketing, and it was great, and our marketing budget was really high. But it was great for at that time, and then when COVID happened, our budget obviously changed and went down drastically. But at the same time, our cool little brother was born, which is Bardo's Bar Pizza, and that was born during the pandemic. It opened in 2021, so our marketing strategy was a lot different. Our budget was a lot smaller, and also we started to dabble with influencers, and we also hired a marketing agency to help us with our transition. We are closing Lombardo's in Randolph, but we are still going to continue with catering and Bardo's Bar Pizza. So with the birth of Bardo's Bar Pizza, we started to change our marketing. Our budget was zero, and we really tapped into social media only. Our friends and family night when we opened Bardo's was honestly 50% influencers and 50% friends and family. We know the power of influencers, we know the power of Instagram and social media, especially with restaurants. I'm a millennial, so I'm in it and I see it as well. And it's really been a game changer for Bardo's. I think our marketing has been better than ever, and again, our budget is a tenth of what we used to spend, which is wonderful. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I know. Thank you, Francesca, for that. And I know we were just talking about kind of like social media as a whole and how it's been affected the industry so powerfully over the past couple of years since COVID. But kind of getting more from social media as a whole, but also into content creation, which we know is such a big part of social media, that your content has to be effective, but also has to look great. And that is one thing that I know Amelia can definitely speak to as well. Amelia being the marketing manager for Lyons Group, she has her own team now, and they oversee many venues. I don't know, many venues that she oversees and really builds their brand and captures content for them. So Amelia, when it comes to creating eye-catching content for socials, what's probably your best advice for creating content that will grow a brand?
Yeah, I work for about 17 restaurants in the Boston area, and then also one out in Chicago. I think the biggest thing is just knowing your audience creating content that resonates with them. What do they want to see? They want to see people enjoying the food, enjoying their time there, so they know when they go, that's the experience that they're going to have. And then I think being consistent, building a brand, building followers, and having loyal followers, and then also just high quality images. We work with a lot of photographers in Boston, including Paige, who was on the stage with us at a lot of our venues, and just what's going to make you stand out, what's content, video content is a huge thing now, and photos, and just having high quality images that's going to, just like tie in the whole online experience, and then what it'll be, when they go into the venue.
Right, yeah, definitely. And I know Laura and Paige, you guys are also experts in this as well. Anything you guys wanted to add kind of for like the key to capturing, effective content on socials, especially in the food and beverage industry?
Yeah, I think that the common theme here is clean, consistent content. Rather than, we're going for quality or quantity. What is the message that you want to send to your followers, to potential customers, to get them to come in the door? I know that I'm somebody who's going to be checking Instagram before I visit a restaurant for the first time, and a lot of your clients your customers are as well. So what do you want to show them that's going to entice them to come in? Because the attention span is quick, and they might move on fast, or they might say, oh, this other place looks cuter or has a better vibe. They just have a better look on their grid. So just treat Instagram like your own personal miniature billboard that is in the palm of the hands of your customers. What is it that you want to show them, and how can you make it as appealing as possible?
Yeah, so adding on to all of that is really the energy that you can captivate through photography and through utilizing Instagram's reels and all of these things, because like Laura said, if someone's going on Instagram to look at a restaurant, you only have a few seconds, because they might just click to the next one and say, this isn't the experience we're looking for. We're looking to have a girls' night out. We want to have fun. We want fun cocktails. But maybe you do have them, but you're not showcasing them adequately. Or you do have live music, and that's not shown on the page anywhere. It's somewhere hidden on the website. So being sure to integrate all of these things that captivate people, and they're like, oh wow, wait, I want to experience this with my friends and my family or my significant other. And it's a big part of social media that sometimes it's missed. People just want to post a still photo of a drink or a food, which is necessary because people do use Instagram as a menu, rather than, that's a big thing now, is people will hop on there and they say, I want this. They don't even know what it is, they just saw a picture of it and they're like, this is what I want. But food's not everything in the experience. That's where ambiance, atmosphere, and the energy that we can also captivate is incredibly important.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I can't remember exactly what it was, but I remember seeing I think it's 8 seconds you have to capture somebody's attention when they look up your social. So yeah, you go to Instagram, people look you up, and they have that 8 seconds really capturing not only the food and the beverage and that it looks great, but like Paige said, I really like that, the ambiance, if you have live music, if you serve brunch, just the whole vibe of the restaurant or bar, whatever it is, just making sure that you really capture people in those 8 seconds. So I think that's really important. Moving on to Laura, actually, we're going to start getting into, now that we've talked a little bit about social media as a whole, about content creation. Laura, I'm actually going to come to you. So Laura actually, Buns and Bites, her page started in Rhode Island, but the connection that we actually made, we're actually helping her, as she is herself, going into a lot more restaurants and bars across New England now in the Boston area, which is really cool. So capturing content for them as well. So she obviously has a lot of experience when it comes to it. So for influencer programs, Laura, if you want to just explain what an influencer program is, how it can help restaurants and bars grow their business, and just what are the benefits of having influencers in general.
Yeah, of course. So I started Buns and Bites around 6 years ago, so I've been working on it for quite some time, and I've seen the evolution of Instagram. First of all, I'll say that influencers are just regular people, and if you can treat them kind of like the connection between the customers that you want to bring in the door, it's it's tapping into their audience. So for me, I'm a food blogger, so the people who are following me are people who are specifically looking for the next place to go out to eat, or where they want to go, what's the newest restaurant. So if you're trying to tap into a new market, find new customers, or just to like get yourself out there, if you have, could be a new special, a new addition, patio season is coming, we want to remind everyone, those returning customers to come in, you're tapping into an audience that you might not have access to, and that's not only going to bring in customers in the door, but can also grow your own following. And of course, as we all have discussed, that social media is so important. So I think that it's very important to just treat influencers as though they are a friend. Do your research. There's many influencers, and figure out who you connect with and whose content is resonating with your own messaging. As we said, that clean, beautiful content is most important. So find influencers who you like their content, that you also enjoy. You maybe have been influenced by them as well, in order to work with them. So reaching out with them, finding out what their rates are, how they work, is definitely important. I wouldn't just assume that everyone is going to just do it for trade. And also, don't discount small micro influencers. You don't have to see 100,000 followers for someone to have an impact. I know I follow a ton of other food bloggers, and somebody with 1,000 followers might give me a tip that I didn't know about, and that person is also has access to followers that you want to gain too. So definitely keep your options open, work with different kinds of influencers, keep it local, because of course someone might have 1 million followers, but keep in mind, where are those 1 million followers located? Are they in Boston? Are they in New England? Or are they spread throughout the country? You want to make sure that the person that you're working with is going to be able to lure people into your restaurant that are local, if that makes sense. So
yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah.
And Francesca, I actually kind of want to get your take on this as well, because you in the hospitality group, and then Bardo's, I know we've worked a lot together on getting influencers in. How have you seen, or how have you felt that like influencers have impacted like you as like a business owner?
Influencers help me greatly because they have an audience that I would never have. Again, Laura's coming from Rhode Island. There's a lot of crossover between New England, so she's reaching an audience that would be very difficult for us to reach. So I think when you're working with an influencer, the ROI is greater than just putting a print ad out or a radio ad, like we were mentioning before, like the old school forms of marketing. It's also instantaneous. So if we do a lot of pizza specials, let's say. So if we want to promote an upcoming pizza special, we can have an influencer in that weekend. They post a reel or a video the next day, and then we're getting people in the door. People are commenting on it on our Instagram, like, oh, just changed my plans, definitely coming here for dinner tonight. So the ROI is definitely instant and greater, in my opinion. And also, as marketing directors, there's a lot on our plates, and I'm sure for a lot of small businesses, like, you're wearing a lot of hats. So if marketing's one of them, it's kind of like outsourcing the creative side to the people who do it the best. So Laura, again, has done an awesome reel for us. You can check it out. And so I rely on them for new content we probably have them in twice a month. And whether they're promoting just the general menu or a special we have going on, it's been an awesome addition to our social media and keeps it fresh and new.
Right, yeah. No, and that's, I'm glad that you brought that up as well, because another thing, I know we're just talking kind of about influencer programs as a whole, about having people in who have, whether it's a targeted following or if it's a broader following. It's one thing that we are actually diving into as well, is getting influencers in to focus on particular events or specials, or I know a big thing that's going on right now is influencers doing reels of like places for date night and hitting like different locations in one area, which I think is really cool as well. Paige, I know, of course, so you have your social media page as well, similar to Laura. How have you felt the influencer kind of space has like changed, not just in Boston, but like maybe in like the past few months, like years? Like, how do you feel? I don't know. How do you feel about?
I mean, with change of the influencer space, it's interesting. Like, I I'm so transparent, and I started my page merely for fun, and it was leisure, and I was sitting one day and I was like, wow, I spend all of my time at restaurants. I've been a photographer for years. I actually started in portrait photography. I'd never done food photography before, and when you look at the progression over the last 5 years, it's fun to see where we started when it came to food. But Instagram has changed immensely, and with the effect that it has on restaurants. And for myself, I started right before COVID. During COVID, I was just understanding what having a social media platform could do and how it could help somewhere. And I started doing small things with takeout and trying just to help in any way, even if it was a story or a small post, not getting huge reach. And then right after COVID, all of these restaurants were in such an uncomfortable place that they'd never been before, whether they didn't have funding for marketing, whether they were trying to organically post themselves, and people were so excited to go back out. Like everyone's like, we want to go out with our friends, we want to have a good time. And they started coming to influencer pages to get the inspiration as to what they should be doing now that they're ready to just go out and have fun again. So I saw this progression of like Instagram was quiet, people were using it, and then everyone was like, wait, we want to have a life again. And then a lot of restaurants were able to reap a reward from that because people were finding videos that influencers were posting. And then the integration of Reels happened, where everything changed, because we used to look at social media as just a photo-based platform, and then we started seeing videos. And it was an uncomfortable territory, as Laura and I spoke about, when we're just like, do we dive into it? And she did, and I didn't. I was like, I don't want to make videos. I'm a photographer. That's what I used to say at the beginning. And then I saw through a video, you can encapsulate an experience so much better than what a photo can do. And that's why Reels really took off with the competition of Instagram and TikTok. In this progression, like we're moving towards a place of being able to show people the experience better and better every week. I mean, it's a lot of fun being able to share it with someone before they have the opportunity to see it themselves.
No, I definitely agree. Having that like small like snippet, the reel, like again, like showing that experience. And also with the static post though, because I mean, I just know like going through socials, you also like the static post too, where you can just see like food, beverage, whatever. But integrated with the reels, I really do love that. Paige, actually, so since you kind of have already touched on this, but since you, as yourself being a photographer, also a content creator, and now managing social media accounts, how do you feel that kind of all three can tie together to really build a brand and really get that message across?
Yeah, all three of these things are so important, and it's really understanding them each as an individual and then tying them together. For me personally, I worked in hospitality for 5 years as a restaurant manager, and I remember I used to always see people pull up the Instagram of the restaurant I was working at, and we did not invest in social media marketing. We barely had a photographer come in, and people would say, I want this. And I started seeing that more and more. And then an issue was a lack of quality content. People see a photo and they don't want it, and even though it's a beautiful dish and an iPhone picture didn't do it justice. Or you have the counter of that, where maybe a photo is so gorgeous online and they get something and it's not what they anticipated. So I was able to observe, wow, social media is really a tool that people are coming into a restaurant with a preconceived notion of what their experience is going to be. And then for me, as I developed the influencer platform, I was able to see at the restaurant I was at the time, I would post on my story on my food page, and we'd get so many followers because I was logged into both accounts. And I was like, wait, this works. And that's when I really saw it, where a lot of influencers, they don't get to see that direct correlation immediately because they're not logged into Bardo's. They can't see how many followers are actually coming in immediately after a post. So that's where it just solidified and reinforced for me, okay, having influencers post, it works. We can directly see this. Having quality content to adequately represent the restaurant and the brand is crucial, because if an influencer comes in, they post something, and then you have a horrible Instagram page that hasn't been posted on in 3 years, and the last picture is something that's not even on the menu, now you're poorly representing yourself. So it's tying these things together with adequate usage of social. Like, are you engaging with people? Are you active? Are you consistent? Like Amelia was saying, what is the quality of your content? And then implementing influencer programs, being able to see that, and then everything tying together to represent the brand the way it should be, and not missing the marks of where you could be increasing revenue and all of these things collectively.
Right, no, definitely. And kind of going back to like tying everything together, I know Amelia, so of course influencer programs are so important and we love having people in and providing the content for us. Hey, it's a little easier, right? But I know Amelia, you do a lot of course, like providing the content for your clients for many, or for the restaurants in Lyons Group that you work for, and many of them they're so different. So how do you really go about capturing content for so many different brands and making sure that it really is like true to that brand?
So I work for about 17 restaurants, like I said. They range from sports bars to fine dining, neighborhood bars. So it's definitely a very wide range. But I think, like I said, knowing your audience is huge. Like, who's going to go there and like what do they want to see? And that is super important too, definitely. I don't know. Did I answer your question? Can
No,
you
yeah,
repeat the end
no.
of that again?
No, definitely. Just that, of course, it's so important that, I mean, every restaurant, every bar, every location has a different vibe, and really capturing that vibe in the content that you're providing. So, I mean, hey, you're an expert on
I
that.
also think, like, different influencers work for different restaurants, you know. Obviously, like, in Fenway, we work at, like, Game On, so you kind of want to see, like, maybe someone that is more into, like, sports or, like, get behind the kitchen and, like, the greasy burgers and stuff like that. And then you go to like Scampo, which is really fine dining, and you want to have like a relaxed experience. So it really is just like picking which influencers work at which venues. You know, some work for all, some work for some, and you just really have to look at their content and contrast it with yours and see what will work best.
No, and I know that we have a lot of the same practices when it comes to sourcing influencers, but what would you say if you just had to give like one tip on how to source appropriate influencers for different locations?
I mean, maybe they can chime in as well, but I definitely think that making that connection with them, like Laura said, like is a huge thing. Like it's not just about the online presence, but like really having that one-on-one connection with them too, so they can understand your brand and like represent it correctly. Does that make sense?
I think that also if there are influencers that you just work well with, maybe you've worked well with in the past, it's about like communicating the vision that you have on the end of the restaurant. I know that for me, I like to go over things with the restaurant. What are you looking for? What is the vibe? Sometimes it's different if I'm returning for a second shoot. Just so that we can curate the look that you're going for, because if I were to come back to Bardo's, we might want to do something totally different, so we're not like repeating content. Because like you said, you're almost having the influencers create the content for you. That's what they're good at. They have the reach. They have the ability to make the content. You have a lot of other things to focus on the end of the restaurant, so you might as well have that influencer create that vision and bring that to life for you.
Definitely. So I just have one more question that I would, if everyone would like to chime in and kind of answer. But so social media and brand building is kind of, what we've been talking about this whole time. What is your best advice when it comes to social media, providing content, building a brand? Best advice that maybe might surprise people who aren't as versed as everyone up here may be when it comes to like social media marketing and all that. Your best advice that you would provide to somebody in the industry who's looking to grow their brand and get their social media, really kick it off. Oh yeah.
We'll switch microphones around. Honestly, I think just really really enjoying what you do is important, like really getting involved and like really liking the content that you're creating, really liking the creators that you're working with, just like building those relationships is a huge thing.
I would say consistency is super important, just because with Instagram, the algorithms are always changing. I don't understand them, but I know that it's important to stay relevant, and the more you post, or the different types of posts that you're doing, static versus real versus stories, will help you be seen more by your followers and others. I would say consistency, just whether you're posting a few times a week or a few times a day. It's important also to your viewers as well, that you stay top of mind when they're thinking of where to go for dinner.
Adding on to that, it's really trying to give value quickly. Like, Maddie was saying, we only have 8 seconds to get someone. And they might watch something, they might click off, and it's where you have to put yourself in their shoes and say, why does someone care to watch this? Why do they want to know this? What is it doing for them? Rather than myself being the creative I am, sometimes I like to make an artsy video and I want to post it, and then I'm like, Paige, people don't want to just see this part of the restaurant. They want to see an experience. So it's almost like taking yourself out, trying to look at it with that selfless perspective of why do people want this and how can I actually help people using this as a tool, and it's really just putting yourself in those other shoes.
I would just say I'm going to give advice that I have to remind myself of all the time, which is to stay focused on what you're working on and not to compare yourself to anybody else, because it would be so easy for one of your restaurants to compare to another and to say, oh my god, this restaurant has 10,000 more followers than I do, what are they doing that I'm not doing? And then you're spiraling into oblivion. So it's very easy to get carried away with social media. So I'm always reminding myself to just continue to be consistent, make great content, and do what I'm doing. And I could give that same advice to all the restaurants that I'm working with, to focus on your brand, make great content, work with people who are going to make content for you, and to just stay true to what you're working on, because like everyone has said, the algorithm is wild and we will just continue to drive ourselves crazy if we try to keep up with it. So definitely just go easier on yourself. And one last thing I'll say, I was very nervous to get into other platforms outside of just Instagram, and taking that jump and getting into other platforms and trying to make it as easy on yourself as possible. Like, take your reels and put them on TikTok, because in a few years from now, hopefully everyone will be on TikTok as well. Maybe we'll see. But just to spread yourself out and put your content in different places, because you'll have different access to different people in your audience.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm glad you brought up TikTok, but even before that, I was going to say, I totally agree with that. Probably my best advice is really deciding what you want your brand to be and really saying, hey, this is like my brand, not looking too far into what other people doing. And then once you have that decided, I mean, everything else can kind of like go from there. So I definitely agree with that. But yeah, I think that we're going to open it up to any questions at this point, if anybody had any questions for any of our panelists. And looks like we have one already. Yeah.
Sorry, thanks JP for pointing that out. All right, raise your hand with the question. We're going to use the microphone because it's really loud in here and I can't, so we're just going to go boom, boom, boom. We'll get to everybody, I promise.
How's it going? So I do a lot of photography for our restaurant. It's an Italian restaurant on the South Shore. Sorry. And I was just looking to get some tips for shooting people in the restaurant. Just advice on, like, do you ever recommend just asking customers if you can grab a photo? Or is it better to just always bring someone in knowing, like, you're going to shoot them, you have their consent, and stuff like that?
I would definitely ask, always, if people want to take photos taken of them, but at the same time, like in a lot of shoots, like I think it just depends for me, like which restaurant we're going into, but we'll hire models, or like maybe someone's friend will come and be in the photos, just so you know that you will have a person in the photo, because I know that people just love to see just people enjoying it, having a good time, and not just the food, so definitely, I don't know, both I guess is the answer, but just whatever day it is, if you're like, it's going to be busy, maybe people will be there, I can ask them, or maybe it's going to be slow, like maybe reach out and see. I know a lot of people, and Maddie, maybe you can speak to that more, like are looking for like modeling gigs in the city.
I volunteer. Philip, you can always ask me, I volunteer to model eating spaghetti down. It's never pretty, but we can do it.
I was actually also going to say, this just made me think of it as well, but going in, and if you go in and you are going to take photos and you ask people like, hey, like, do you mind if you're in a couple photos? Having those people in, first of all, you're getting like an organic experience, which I think is really awesome on social. We love lifestyle photos, it can't all be just like food, beverage, location, like we love, and I know that's the thing influencers do as well, like getting like yourself or getting people in the photos as well, which is awesome. But then tagging them, then they can share it. They feel like they're a part of something. They feel like they're a part of the brand. So I think that that's a good idea. Just ask people and maybe get some photos of people organically there. That's really cool.
I'll add one thing quickly too. The more confident you are behind the camera, the more people respect you as the photographer. And if you're like hiding in the corner, they're kind of like, what is this person doing? But if you just step forward with that confidence, a lot of people love the camera, and the people who don't make it clear pretty quickly. You know, like and when you ask people and have that open conversation, and if it's a restaurant that you're comfortable in, you can say, hey, we'd love to send over an appetizer, and almost incentivize them in that way, make them feel even more special. But it's really your confidence behind the camera that can help influence the people around you.
So my question is that I work for a nonprofit, and having somebody to pay for, like an influencer or whatever, is very difficult. So what do you suggest for somebody who is a novice at this, how to get started in being your own influencer, as far as like how to make sure you get the right content out to the masses? Because when you're working for a nonprofit, you're trying to get people to come in, not only to buy you the food and drink, but to also make a donation usually in the end. What's your suggestion?
I would say interns are a great resource. They're right in that perfect generation where this comes naturally to them. They can do it in their sleep. So definitely an intern. And if you don't want to, if you want to try to get into social media doing it yourself, is that the plan? Yeah. There's a lot of resources out there. Even YouTube, like how to post a reel or how to make a reel. Or I often will Google ways to get, to make a reel better or to find a template. Again, I outsource to an influencer. Maybe there are influencers out there who will do it for some kind of trade that won't cost your nonprofit too much. But yeah, I would say definitely utilize interns.
I also will say that not every influencer will have, a huge fee. A lot of people will do things for trade, especially if it's a nonprofit. Someone might be happy to do it for free. And then I would also just say, this is my budget. What are you able to do with this? Instagram and social platforms have a lot of different tools. So for me, I have different tiers. Is it going to be professional photography? Is it going to be a reel, some stories, and everything will have a different cost attached to that. So you might say, this is my budget. What can an influencer do for me with this amount of money? And there'll be, I'm sure, a variety of people that will be able to offer you different services for that.
We had a question over here.
Hi, we are newly looking into possibly using an influencer. And I was just curious if you had any tips in terms of measuring your ROI. If you are going to do a reel, obviously if you're focusing on one particular dish, burger special or something, and you're going to see more sell of that, that's like quantitative data. But do you typically see, is it like an instant situation, or should you stick to one particular thing in the reel, or focus on not putting too many things in the reel, because now you have no idea of whether that helped you?
So personally, when if I'm visiting a restaurant, I like to do a couple of different things. Obviously, if you're trying to focus on selling a specific burger and you're trying to push that, then you're going to want to focus on that. It doesn't hurt to also add a couple of other things, but you don't want to overwhelm it. And obviously, you'll want to see the stats on that specific post, which Instagram provides us. Did you get any followers? This is all trackable data. Did you get any followers? How many likes did you get? How many views? You can ask the influencer to share that data with you. How many people have clicked over to your page? And obviously just tracking in the weeks following, how many burgers did you sell? That's kind of as close as I could say as tracking this, unless you're asking every customer, where did you find this information? Which I guess you could do, when you drop the check, here's a survey, how did you find out about us? But yeah, I would say just using the tools that Instagram can give you, and using the data that they're providing.
I know we had another question back here, right?
So I'm going to expand something she said. So when you're building a brand and you want to get your products out there, you're seeing so many of the sexy, ripping apart food photos and all this kind of stuff. But should you be blending that with an offer or a hybrid of the two? The sexy ripping apart with an offer right in? Because really, we're trying to get people into the restaurant. That's what we're after.
We're a year and a half old, our restaurant. In the beginning, we just were super focused on gaining an audience and recognition that we existed. So we were having influencers in all the time. And then pretty recently, we spoke with our marketing team and we said, let's be more strategic. Let's say, okay, we have a promotion coming up. We want the influencer to just focus on that. So that's one part of the question. And then the giveaway part, we do giveaways all the time, and influencers can talk more about it, but I think it does help give the client or the viewer an incentive to follow both of our pages, because we want to gain more followers, of course, and get bodies in seats. So yeah, we will do something. I mean, we usually do like a $50 gift card. We're now tracking that because, again, we've been in business a year and a half. We're like, okay, we need to put like a budget on that and make sure we kind of have an understanding and more of a focus now that we're going into year 2 of the business.
Awesome. Do we have more questions? No? Come on. This isn't like, thank you.
Hi guys, huge fan. I think just there's a lot of business owners, it seems like, in the audience. I'd love to know, just like back to the basics, how often should people be posting? Just if you had to give them bullet points, like how often, what should we be posting? Like the rule book, how would you summarize that?
I'll jump in on kind of the first half of the question. So I know at IUC some of our best practices that we've just seen the best reaction to, and I know that we passed this along to some people on the panel as well. But probably every 2 to 3 days we say that we like to post, and then again, like I had said previously, kind of integrating in video content, so reels as well as static posts, we've seen be really effective. So the reels are getting out there more. Meanwhile, photos are still like great to see on a feed as well, having that mix. And yeah, usually I would say 2 to 3 days in between each, as well as like integrating stories. I mean, stories are awesome. You can put as many stories up as you want, I think, for the most part. But yeah, that's kind of what I would say for best practices.
Adding on to that, I would say as a business owner, be asking yourself, what can I commit to and stay consistent to? So you could go into it and say, oh, we want to post 5 times a week, and then in 2 months you just don't have the bandwidth, or comes up and you can't stay consistent. So if you're not outsourcing social media and you're trying to do it in-house, I would have that transparent conversation and say, okay, we can commit to 2 days a week, we can commit to 1 day a month of getting the content that'll be able to go through that month. And then you can ramp that up as you go, but just less is more, like Laura said earlier. Just be consistent and find that number that you can actually commit to.
And I will say too, I still post for Bardo's. Maddie does our other divisions, but I'm more organic with it. I definitely don't let it go past 2 days. Of course, there are days where weeks that can happen, but we try to keep it every 2 days. And then there are days where you're posting 10 times a day because you have so many people tagging you, so you're just constantly reposting. But I'd say it's more organic for us, what we have going on. And I do think that the viewer knows when it's organic and in real time, and when it's like scheduled and like, maybe just trying to hit like a check mark on your calendar.
Obviously, if you're coming from the standpoint of a restaurant, you probably, unless, like you said, you've outsourced your social media management, you probably have a lot of things on your plate, and scheduling your content and making sure you have content and you're staying up with the algorithm and using the tools. There's a lot to go through. So just some like thoughtless content, look at your tagged photos, see what you can share, share it to your story, reshare your own content. If you've got like a Taco Tuesday, like every Tuesday, reshare past weeks and month ago's post to your story, so that you're just constantly having something in your on your page that's current. So you're always on like a top of mind, you're always in somebody's feed. That way, whenever that follower is logging into their Instagram, they're always seeing you do something, whether it's a story, a reel, a post, doesn't matter what it is. Not that you have to post every day, but it doesn't have to be so time intensive every time you're making a post.
Awesome. Did you want something to say, or I was going to ask if we had any more questions? No? I can't believe that. Oh, over there. I'm coming. This is how I get my steps in during the show. Hi. Go this way. Oh, yeah, no, I thought you said I fixed that. Okay, my question is, I live in a very rural area, and I like the idea of using an influencer for marketing, but I've been active on Instagram for many years, but I can't think of any influencers that I follow that are local to my area. So I guess my question would be, what could I do to even find potential people to work with?
So that's actually a lot of a big part of what we do at IUC. So some of like kind of our best tips for finding some influencers is if you find one, there's like a way on Instagram to then like look at others who are similar, like in this same area. So that's one way, and then also looking up maybe restaurants and bars that are also in your area. Look at their tagged photos, maybe see who they have used in the past. Finding, and then again, if it's in like a smaller area, maybe finding influencers that are maybe on the more micro side, but they can still have like a really big pull, even if they don't have like, a huge following. I think it's still great to have people in and getting that content, and just getting people in and having them create that content for you. It's kind of like my best tips. I don't know if anyone had anything else.
I think that influencers will also travel for good food.
That's true.
So even if there might be somebody who seems out of range that you follow, that you would love for them to come, it never hurts. Maybe they aren't able to, but I would say ask a couple of them and see who's willing to come out. I mean, I think that like within New England, a lot of New England-based influencers are willing to travel. I'm from Rhode Island, and like coming to Boston is, in Rhode Island terms, is like, oh my God, you're going so far. But really, in reality, it's people are willing to travel and grow connections, really.
I have a philosophy, and I think Maddie knows this. You won't get the work you can get isn't a no. If you don't ask, you're automatically a no. Just ask. That's my philosophy. I've stalked Instagram, influencers, and it's worked to my benefit, and sometimes it doesn't. So I haven't stalked any of you yet, but that's coming. Do we have any more questions? Going once, going twice. Ladies, thank you so much. This was a absolutely fantastic session. I'm sure they got lots of great content. They're going to be hanging out here for another minute or two if you have any additional questions that you didn't want to ask on the mic. But thank you, ladies, again so much. We hope to have you all back next year.